It is not clear where some of them come from or how they're created, but pre-election polls could play a big part in deciding who becomes the next mayor of Nashville. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Carrie Sharp.
And I'm Rory Johnston. Yeah, recent polls suggest that some of the front runners are the same, but now experts are showing News Channel 5 investigative reporter Levi Ismail why pre-election polls are problematic.
You look at these results and experts say they worry people won't turn out to vote on Thursday because their pick for mayor is so far behind. When the truth is, we know just as much about these polls as we do about who will win the mayor's seat.
With a crowded field all hoping to be the next mayor of Nashville, pre-election polls narrowing that field may be a welcome sight for some, but for others...
As a pollster, pre-election polls make me a little bit queasy.
Not so much. Josh Clinton is a professor of political science at Vanderbilt University and in 2020 served as chair of a national organization that checked the accuracy of pre-election polls. Not surprising, it's hard work.
Well, the first thing whenever you look at a poll, you want to try to figure out what are they doing, right? Who are they talking to? What's their methodology? How are they adjusting their data?
All great questions. The trouble is finding this information. We've since learned that Music City Research, one of the first to name Councilmember Freddie O'Connell as the frontrunner, is a name made up by Councilmember Dave Rosenberg. He won't say who paid his company Harpeth Strategies to create this poll, but he did say he used text messaging to survey Metro Nashville. News outlets, including our own, shared these results, even though Rosenberg says it was never meant for the public.
It seems like we are putting a lot of weight and a lot of credibility and a lot of trust behind names that we don't really recognize.
We have no idea the assumptions they're making about who the electorate is, and turns out there's some omissions here that this looks a little bit wonky.
At least with this poll by the Tennessee Laborers PAC, there's a phone number, website, and some explanation for how we got here. But when comparing the two polls, we found a lot of similarities, not just in the number of people they spoke to.
500 is small, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
But also who they heard from.
You know, when I see a number and it says 0 for Hispanic or Latino, 0 for Asian, 0 for American Indian, you compare that with the actual census data in Nashville, I mean, it looks like quite a bit of people are being left off here.
There's a bias in terms of the people who actually answer polls. And so I think you could see that reflecting in those numbers.
Music City Research claims to have heard from people living in 13 zip codes out of the nearly 38 in Davidson County. 73% of people who took part were white, and nearly 70% had at least a bachelor's degree. Now compare that to what census data says about Nashville, and we know that 60% of people are white, and 43% of people have at least a bachelor's degree.
When you only have 500 people, and when you have it being weighted in an unclear way, right? You're basically elevating some voices above other voices. For example, most of the polls, are English language only, right? That can be super consequential, right? If we're talking, about an election with small differences there.
I guess it begs the question, why do we do this in the first place?
I mean, why do we love polls? I think it's because we love scores, right? We love sports, we love the scorecard, and like polls, for better or for worse, we think they give the appearance of who's up and who's down.
Clinton calls it the Super Bowl of polling when fields are crowded and everyone is searching for who scored the highest. The question, of course, is who's keeping score?
That's a real concern that you have when you see these numbers, and you're just hoping that when someone sees the poll numbers, that's not affecting their decision whether or not to vote or not. And so basically, I look at the poll and say, I wouldn't let it influence my vote, right? Because we don't really have any good idea as to who's actually coming in first.
Clinton says, unfortunately, there's no committee where they can hold pollsters accountable for how they collect their data. The organizations that do exist can only verify the work without any consequences if the data turns out to be wrong. So Clinton says it's even more important to let your vote speak for you and not some poll. With News Channel 5 Investigates, I'm Levi Ismail.